So Feed Dayton says we're going to make our focus on those crops that provide the highest level of nutrition and the most abundant harvest. So we didn't want to grow carrots, which is a pretty decent nutrition crop, but when you pull it out of the ground, it's done. We wanted crops that you could pick over and over and over again. And one of the reasons being is there's a lot of labor in the preparation and planting. And if you pull that plant out of the ground and it's done, then you have to go through all that labor to replant again. Whereas you take my kale, had I not pulled them up this spring for a variety of reasons, I had kale that was coming up and would have been producing for its 4th year. It was started at East Dayton Baptist Church. I yanked it out of there in 2009 and brought it here to the house. We yanked it out of here and planted it at 5th Street last year, and it was still alive this spring. So when you can plant a crop like kale that has more nutrition than any other plant you can grow in the Midwest, you can eat it raw as a salad or as a cooked green.
Or pesto.
And it can,
it's fantastic.
Pesto, whatever.
Yeah.
Any, chips. Some people make little kale chips.
Okay.
But you take a plant like that and say, well, I can plant it once and harvest for 4 years. Harvest from April till November, and if I leave any on the plant, I can often harvest even in December and January, maybe February. So we went with kale, and we went with tomatoes because of its popularity, high vitamin content, all that on the vitamin side. And then we went with pole beans and sugar snap peas on the protein side. I wanted the sugar snap peas because you eat the whole pod, so we didn't have to incorporate the labor of shucking the pods to get the peas. And the pole beans are just extremely abundant producers. They produce for 2 to 3 months.
How well's the food been received?
Very well, but you got to understand this is just our 2nd year, and so we've only had 1 year under our belt. Had a bunch of things unexpectedly come up, didn't harvest near as much as we would have liked to, and going through a lot of growing pains last year. So we're in a much better place this year, so that'll be a better question to ask next fall.
What really interested me when I heard about you were doing this, and I've read about similar programs in like Detroit and some other places where they've had a lot of problems and with just economic disaster, if you will, leaving a lot of empty spaces and turning.
Right.
Was the flip side of it, where I see, and you're seeing a lot of documentaries nowadays being made about corporate agriculture. It's poisoning us.
Right.
It's not only
I just wrote a post maybe 2 weeks ago about that. And what it says is big agriculture can produce the most food with the least amount of workers. So you get the most food per worker, period. But you get the most food per acre, you get the most nutrition per acre, and you can provide the most jobs per acre doing local ag intensive gardening. So really, to say the most food per worker is meaningless. It means nothing unless maybe we were in war and there weren't enough people to hold all the jobs. Then that might have some relevance. But essentially, it's a claim that they can make that has no value. So what if you can produce the most food per an individual? It's not the most nutrition, it's not the most food, and it doesn't support the most families. And those are the things that are important.
Yeah, you've obviously seen King Corn then, haven't you?
I haven't seen all of it. I've seen some clips of it, but I read Deep Economy.
Okay.
Bill McKeon or whatever, and he goes into it in great depth. He covers a lot of things, but he obviously, by necessity, dwells on big ag. And
do you have any of the neighbors over here that are interested?
Oh, absolutely.
And how's that been?
Especially since I started this site here, that sparked a whole lot more interest. And it's been kind of fun with the backyard because people come by and say they'd like something or whatnot, and I just give it to them. So I've been sharing out of my yard as well, even the first year before Feed Dayton started. And so now I get people that are coming back and say, yeah, I was getting some vegetables from you a couple years ago and stuff like that.
Yeah, I had a garden a couple years ago. It was on a busy street, and people were always asking me, "Aren't you afraid of everyone stealing out of that garden?"
Right.
You know, I was kind of like, if they're that
can't-
hungry that they would actually want to take. So the only people I caught 2 teenage or like 12-year-old boys in there in the
Yeah.
tomato patch one day. I'm like, "Hey, get out of there!"
Right.
But-
I've had vandalism problems, there's no doubt. Since I've started growing here in Dayton, I've had almost zero. It's been close to zero. Now,
Okay.
when I was doing beautification on West 3rd Street, I had vandalism almost every day, where people just wanted to be destructive and pull flowers out of the beds I planted. But as far as my backyard, I'm not aware. I don't have any knowledge.
Where do you think that comes from?
I don't know.
Why would anyone just? I mean, of like all the things you could spend your energy on
Right.
doing, why would you want? And
Right.
why would you
Destroy
want
something
to
that's
pull a
beautifying the
flower?
community. Yeah. I had one where they took out a half of the bed and threw all the plants in the middle of the street.
Okay.
You know, and my sunflowers were real vulnerable because someone had just a thrill to come and just pull one of my sunflowers to the ground. Like, I got a kick out of it because they'd pull it to the ground and the shoots would turn up and they'd go right on blooming. But as far as the food vandalism, in the past I had a community garden over the Rhine in Cincinnati.
Yeah.
And I'd get occasional theft there and vandalism. One time I almost got accosted by a group of teens who were going to pelt me with my tomatoes. And one of the other people goes, "That's Brother Ken, what are you doing? You know, he's doing good here.
Yeah.
You better get out of here." So
Yeah.
other neighbors, you know,
Yeah.
I wasn't worried about it, you know. I was.
Now, have you had any of these guys who might be more interested in this kind of stuff taking more of an interest to this kind of stuff?
Well, I'd have to say that it's too soon to tell, but I work with the Building Bridges kids every week. I mean, even this year, they've been out working with me since maybe late February, March, and they were with me today for 2 different groups.
Yeah.
So there I'm working with high-risk teens that are part of the juvenile court system. And on and off, I've been working with them for 7 years.
How they like working out here and doing the kind of work?
It depends, you know, because they're going through issues. So some days they come out with a terrible attitude, and you really can't see that you're making any progress. Today on Salem Avenue, I had the chance to praise them that every single person in the group was productive. And
Okay.
usually you'll get a couple that are working and a couple that are just dragging everybody else down. But today, every single person in the group got stuff done, and we got a ton done today. So it varies, but I'll run into, just like one of my neighbors over here, I didn't even realize it, but was part of the Building Bridges program back in 2005 when I was doing the beautification of West 3rd Street. So he comes over there today, says, "Hey brother, you know, Mr. Ken, you remember me? I was part of Shanda's group and all that." "Oh, okay, yeah." And so, you know, I've had that happen a number of times where kids from the program from years by will recognize me and come up to me and want to talk to me and all that. So there has to be some positive influence there.
Superb. If people want to, I guess there's a couple more questions. Number one, what is your ultimate goal of this program?
Of this program?
Or what you're involved in, your work?
I'd have to say a lot of it has to do with my unique view on fundraising, which up to this point I'm strictly volunteer because I don't seem to be able to get people's attention, because I promote a way to generate revenue and funds kind of like along the line of social entrepreneurism without having to rely on grants and donations. And it's more detailed with the Sustainability Center project, and you know, there's a lot of things we can talk about that, but it's the same resourcefulness to say, hey, there's creative ways that we can raise funds without having to have our hand out. Because sometimes, I gotta be careful how I say this, but sometimes I kind of see the nonprofit world emulating the welfare community, where if I don't have a grant, I can't move.
Okay.
You know, I can't move forward without.
So you can help show nonprofits how to raise money for their stuff through raising food, or
well, it's not so much from raising food, but it's taking advantage of opportunities that are right there in front of us that most people just don't pay any attention to.
Okay.
And just to make it more clear, to give you an idea, internet advertising is one of those streams that I've been preaching on for 5 or 6 years. When I first started beautification on West 3rd Street, I didn't have a website, didn't know anything about it. And what I did is I started contacting a couple of companies to find out if there were products that I could sell to the community at a competitive enough price that I could compete with wherever else they were buying it and make enough revenue to fund the initiative. So maybe it was 2 companies, but I didn't pursue it very hard. One I found was Indian Summer Apple Juice, which was a pure premium. It wasn't made from concentrate, it was just strict apple juice, but it was priced at the competitive side, you know, close to the low-end pricing. So back then in 2004, 2005, it was selling for like $1.42 for a half gallon. And I think the cheapest juice was going for about $1, and it hasn't changed a whole lot since then. But the point was, here's a product that sits on the shelf at Walmart in Moraine, it sits on the shelf at Myers down, I don't know if that's Kettering or...
Okay.
And if I'd matched Walmart's price, and I sold 1,156 cases, which was as much as a tractor trailer would hold. So that's 4 gallons of juice. So to a home, they might consume a gallon a week or whatever. So maybe a month's supply, 2 if they're... So basically 1,200 families could purchase a truckload. I can match Walmart's price and net $4,000. I can match Myers' price and net $8,000 because Myers was that much higher than Walmart on that particular product. So, you know, it's not like I'm trying to sell $2 candy bars. I'm just saying if we all work together, even the low-income community can fund the projects there. So you're not having to go to Oakwood and Bellbrook and Kettering or wherever.
So you think a lot of our problems has been
a
state of mind problem?
Yeah, well, it's a lot of things, but it's like I just get so tired of everyone thinking they have to beg donations from the wealthy to fund things that they can take care of themselves if they just be more creative and resourceful.
That kind of like empowers yourself and disempowers your oppressor all at the same time.
Right, because these people here can pay for the work that they need to get done. And the only product I've priced so far this year, and I'm throwing some more feelers out because of the Sustainability Center, because that's one of the ways I want to help fund that project, it was driveway sealer. Because there's no driveways here, so I'll have to go outside of this neighborhood because there aren't any. Everyone parks in front of the house or in the alley. But it's still a product that's pretty universally used, and it has a pretty fixed cost. So I know my competitors would be Home Depot or Lowe's, maybe Walmart or whatever, and I'm able to get pricing now that I can match theirs and make about $3 per pail. So it's something that if I'm not looking at inventorying a lot of product, I'm looking at building up a network of supporters to say, what do you want me to sell? And I'll let you know when it's coming in, and like driveway sealer, you know whether you're doing it this year or not. And so everyone that's doing it this year, this is what we're providing, this is what it's going to cost, and this is how much it's going to benefit the community.